What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This is going to bring you my 1 week review of our vehicle downgrade. This is a 2022 Subaru Forester Wilderness Edition. And if you've seen my videos before, we've had a decent amount of cars, STI, Ascent, which we got rid of the Ascent a while ago, and an Outback Onyx Edition, and we traded Onyx Edition in for this. And kind of want to go through why, the reasoning, why we got the wilderness trim, a little bit of review on the vehicle as a whole, coming from someone that's had essentially every Subaru besides a Crosstrek and any of their other cars that aren't for the performance related versions. I did have a 2018 Forester in the past, and the reason why we got this is essentially Subaru gave us more than what we paid for the Outback brand new as trade-in. So we paid $35,200 for the Outback, and they gave us $36,000 for it for trade-in. So it seemed like a no-brainer. So we have been trying to downgrade recently in our vehicle expenses, and this was a more economical option. It generally costs less if you look for spec compared to the Outback. It is a little bit smaller of a vehicle, but we wanted something that got a little bit better gas mileage. So in the Outback, I was getting around 19 miles per gallon. I do 99% city back road driving, and with the turbo, it just never warmed up enough for me for my short commutes back and forth to work, picking up the little ones. It just never did very good gas mileage wise for me. So that's why we went with this. Why did we do the wilderness trim? Well, it was about the same price as the Limited we were looking at, and I think the wilderness has a few upgraded options over the Limited. I think the Limited we looked at was around 35, and this one was around 36 for just we pay MSRP. I ordered this like 7 months ago. It took that long to come in. So I'll kind of go through the review the first week with it. It'll be a lot comparing it to the Outback because that's what I had for the past year and a half. The buying process was really easy. This actually was not the first option we wanted. We originally wanted a 2023 CRV, but Honda dealerships in this area are very difficult to deal with, and I couldn't find one that would even sell me one at MSRP. So, or they really devalued my trade-in value for the Outback, so I just went with this. And this is my Subaru dealership, King's Subaru in Ohio. I've had really good luck with. They're easy to deal with. It took us 10 minutes to get this car price in and out the door. We were done. So first week with this. First thing I've noticed is that it's a significantly smaller than the Outback. I honestly thought they were around the same size because when you put them side by side, they don't look that much different, but it feels 30–40% smaller than the Outback. So it is a very, I would say, a pretty compact vehicle. Even compared to the new 2023 CRV, that thing felt a little bit, maybe 25% bigger than this, but it is a significant smaller vehicle. Especially when you're driving it, it just feels lighter, more nimble. There's not as much cargo area. There's not much room. There's more room in the front seat, the driver's seat, than there is in the Outback. But the rear and the back have significantly less. So review this. I've had it for a week, and these are not the original tires that came on it. I'll go through that. But the first thing with the exterior, I really like the look of the Wilderness. That's another reason why I went with that over the Limited option, is because I really like the look of it. So essentially you get a little bit more ground clearance. It's either 9.3 or 9.5 inches of ground clearance. So you get a little bit more ground clearance, 17-inch tires. I didn't really care about that. You get skid plates. You get an upgraded transmission, which it's not an upgraded transmission, but I think it has that engine transmission cooler, so you can tow a little bit more and haul a little bit more, 3,000 pounds. So that's something that when we go vacation, we will probably put a roof rack on there. So that was something we wanted. You get a little bit different, exterior options. So you get more cladding here and there. It doesn't bother me. I tend to use my vehicles instead of actually, keep them pristine clean. So I didn't care about that. You get, basically, it's supposed to help with glare. I have noticed it does help. As you can tell, I have not even cleaned this thing yet. It's still essentially how it came from when I bought it. I think you can still see the marks on it. There's little black marks on it from where they had something to cover that. So you get different rims. It does come with all-terrain tires. I ended up switching those out the day I got it. These are the Michelin Cross Climate 2. I do not need all-terrain tires. I wish there was an option from the factory to get this without. I know this is supposed to be an off-road oriented adventure style vehicle, but I guarantee 95% of the people that buy this do not need all-terrain tires. So I went with the Michelin Cross Climate 2 because they are one of the best rated all-season three-peak design tires. And we drive a decent amount during the week. I work at a hospital and we have to pick up our little ones from a decent distance away. So I essentially bought the best tires I could for all season, with where we get a decent amount of snow here in Ohio from time to time. You do get a little bit different fog lights here in the front. Skid plate, I already mentioned that. It's not a very beefy skid plate, so I would, take that with what you see. You get a little different bumper styling here. It does have the LED steering responsive headlights. These are LED also for your fog lights. You get a little bit different color mirror here. You do get a roof rack that I think you can haul 200 pounds at the top, 200 or 280, and you can put 800 pounds on here if you put like a tent on here. So a tent and a person, I believe you can get like 800 pounds here at the top. You get some Wilderness logos. They have these all over the vehicle. And you get this copper, I believe they call it copper. Some days it looks orange, some days it looks copper, some days it looks yellow. Just depends on what it looks like in different color conditions. So you have that throughout the back. So exterior, this isn't my first color. I wanted a geyser blue. They didn't have any because they had some coming in. Originally, I ordered one from the factory and it was just taking too long. So this one was coming in. So I ended up going with this one because I could get it a little bit quicker. And I was afraid that the Outback's trade-in value was going to deteriorate, which trade-in values are right now. So the rims are different. You get 17-inch rims. These honestly look like Montigi. I forget what the brand name is, but they look like some standard aftermarket rims that you could get for this. Does come with the sunroof option, so you do have that. And you also have the option to get the Harman Kardon stereo, which you don't have this option on the Outback Wilderness, but you do on this. I will get in the interior later as we go through. And then on the rear, it's not much different than a standard Outback or Forester Wilderness logo. But overall, it definitely feels more compact than the Outback. Currently, I'm getting like 23 miles per gallon, but it only has 200 miles on it. So typically your first, at least from what I found, your first 2,000 or 3,000 miles, you don't get the best of gas mileage because it's still kind of new. Breaking in, it's also winter, so it sits a lot and warms up, especially when I have to haul the kids around or pick them up from daycare. It tends to sit a lot and just idle. But the exterior, I really like. I like my 2018 Outback. The cladding may not be for everyone, maybe for some people. Steering responsive headlights, I know they're probably pretty expensive to replace, but those are life changers. We live in Ohio and have a lot of either small cities driving and a lot of back road driving, very varied hills and windy, not good visibility. So those are really nice. Good safety feature, I would say. But I like the exterior of it. It does feel more SUV than the Outback felt. It felt like a lifted car. So that's it. So let's go to the interior, then we'll talk about kind of the drivetrain and some of the negatives that I like. So I really like the interior. This is not much different. I would review it about the same as I did my Outback. So you get basically all fake leather in here, but it has nice different texture. So you kind of have a softer texture here, then you got some plastic here, then you got these little, that kind of feels textured-y here. You have this throughout the car. So you have it here, sorry for the glare, shooting directly into the sun, but you have some here. It does have a little bit of cheapness, like if you probably can't hear that because I'm using a a mic that's pretty close to me, but the seats are nice. They're the same similar StarTech material that you get in the Onyx edition that I had. Essentially, it's fake leather that's pretty waterproof, pretty resilient. I do like that it has this little texture here. I feel like it keeps you in place. It's not as, you don't slide around as much as you did in the other. The Onyx was all smooth, so it just adds a little bit of character to it. You have this more wilderness. There's wilderness on the dash. There's wilderness everywhere. So nice steering wheel. It's not much different than the Outback. Most Subaru steering wheels are all the same. The button layout, people say it may be confusing. You have a lot of buttons. So if you look at that and that, and there's more buttons up there. There's more buttons down there. You get used to them, so I haven't really had any issues with it. It does not have as much interior room as the Outback did. So the cup holders are nice. Keys go here really, really easily. So I haven't had any issues there. My phone sits in here perfectly. Actually, I didn't bring my phone with me, but iPhone 13, 14, 12 fits in there perfectly without a case. And get your USB, no USB-C. So this has a lot of new tech and old tech. So you have an 8-inch display, which honestly I am, for the most part, perfectly fine with that 8-inch display. CD player, I don't know why that's there. You get physical buttons, and you get physical buttons for your climate, which I like. The Outback had all touchscreen for the most part, and we had a lot of issues with that. I'm going to go around to the other side to hopefully help with the sun, because at that angle I'm shooting directly into the sun. So you do have a lot of physical buttons here, which I like, so you don't have to worry about messing with the touchscreen. Physical buttons for your heated seats. I wish there was a middle, like a medium here, because they either feel like they're too hot or too cold. I honestly never mess with the X mode. I kind of think it's a little bit of a marketing scheme, but that's just me. This chrome accent is throughout. You do have the old Subaru red coloring, so everything basically in here is red. So red. The door stuff here is all red, which is a very old school Subaru color. The Outback had just your standard blue coloring to it. So again, you have different textures, this kind of honeycomb texture here, and just kind of somewhat soft plastic up here. You do have the standard third display here, which shows various things, which I'll demonstrate that when I get it on. It's not anything fancy. It basically, there is a setting where you can do your like water temperature and your oil temperature, which is nice. You get these standard, they almost feel like StarTech weather mats, tissues for work, because I was out. It's flu season, RSV season, all kinds of season. The thing I like about this over the Outback is just how large these doors and windows are. So they are much larger, especially when you're getting a child in and out. I just find that it's a lot easier. So there's not as much back seat room, but I feel like it's significantly easier to get a child in and out just because the doors are bigger. They open up wider. The whole door area is wider, and basically it's taller. So I think the Outback may have been a little longer, but this is taller. But this is really easy to get into. It's easy to install a car seat for anyone that has a car seat. This is a pretty large car seat. This is the new Narava, and it fits in here pretty easily with plenty of extra room. My wife is 5'10", pretty tall, and she says it's pretty comfortable to be in here. So you have all kinds of room there. You have the same fake leather material. This is really, really soft. That's one thing I noticed, is just how comfortable the seats are, the front and the back seats. You get step areas here to step up to put stuff on your roof. That's in every single Outback, Ascent, Forester, Crosstrek. The seats aren't as wide as the Outback, but they're extremely soft. So I do really like just how soft they are. Everything comes gray with the interior, and you get a black liner here. So everything essentially in here is black. On some of the other ones, it's a light color. And this will give you an idea of pretty large moonroof, sunroof, whatever you want to call it. Give you an idea about that. The front area is a really comfortable cabin. It's really nice to ride and get in without any much difficulty. Very good viewing angles, probably the best exterior viewing angles of any SUV out there. You can look at reviews and most places will agree that it's just one of the better visibility. You do have to sacrifice a little bit of wind noise when you drive, but I would rather do that. So let's go to the cargo area. It does have a smaller fuel tank than the actual Outback did. So typically I can get like 350 out of a tank so far, at least that's what the thing says. And I can get close to 400 out of the Outback. So the exterior, which is not as, it's taller, but it is not as deep as the Outback was. So I feel like the cargo area is probably 15–20% less. We will see when we go on a trip. The big reason why I got this over a Limited is it does come with a full-size spare, which if you've ever been on vacation and had to change your tire, a full-size spare goes a long way because then you don't have to rush to a shop to try to get your other one fixed. So you have that option. These are the all-terrain tires that come on here, the Geolander. I'm going to get a different tire, the original Michelin Cross Climates that I have on my other one put on there, but I just have not done that yet because it's not really a necessity. Technically, you could run different tires for a short period of time, use that as a spare. But that's one thing I like. Oh, forgot to show you another thing that I like. Oh, the Subaru's things are black. Everything's black. So mine came standard with these back pads here. These fold down really easily. There's tie downs everywhere in here to put stuff on. And you have spots for a cargo cover. And the cargo cover is actually, for some reason, mine always come with these as an option and I never use them. So this is a little grocery thing. It's kind of a nice accessory. Basically folds out to a net. You can put your groceries in there so they don't flop around all over. I find that it actually works pretty well. Originally I was gonna take it out, but so far it has worked pretty well. So now we'll talk about the drivetrain. I don't know how it's gonna do in the winter, but every single Subaru we've had has done extremely well in the winter. So I feel like this thing will be a beast, especially with the Michelin Cross Climate 3s on there, or Cross Climate 2s. Cross Climate 3s don't exist. I feel like it will be an absolute beast in the winter. So I'm not really concerned about that, mainly because these are the best all-season rated tires, at least from what I've read on Tire Rack and some other YouTube people who do basically nothing but tire reviews. So the one downfall of this over the previous Onyx edition that I had is it comes standard with the 2.5 liter boxer engine, which only has about 185 horsepower, I believe. This is significantly slower and less peppy than the Onyx edition with the 2.4 turbo XT, which has like 260. I wouldn't think it would be that much of a difference because this actually weighs lighter than the Outback. It's a significantly downgrade when it comes to just overall being able to move the vehicle. The Outback with the turbo engine almost feels too fast, mainly because the brakes aren't very good. So that's one negative, but the good thing is better gas mileage. So I think this thing combined is like at 26, and technically the Outback was supposed to get 26 too, but I never got over 20 miles per gallon in that, 21. And in the winter, I was getting like 17, 18, 19 per tank just because, I don't know, I didn't drive far enough or it's not rated. Who knows? Maybe I drove it too aggressively. But this should get better gas mileage. Even if it's just 4 or 5 mpgs better, it's going to be a significant improvement with gas being over $3 still. And you're probably blinded again, but that's the only negative about that is you don't have that extra motor option. Overall, driving it is a very easy vehicle to drive, very comfortable. Once you get used to all the controls, it's very easy to operate and just overall manage. So I haven't had any issues with that. You can tell that it's more SUV than the Outback, so it sits up higher. It feels very similar to our Ascent, which we had for a couple of years. It just feels smaller. it's definitely slower. So merging, passing, if you pass people, you gotta be real careful because it doesn't get up and go all that well. You do notice driving around town it has some pep in it just because of the lower gear ratio versus the standard, you know, sport, limited, touring, Forester. There is a little bit of wind noise, but that's mainly because you have really big windows. So if you look here, the windows are pretty large, especially if you look at it compared to an Outback. If you can get these side by side with like an Outback, Crosstrek, it's just a bigger vehicle. And that's it. The only negative is that engine. It's just, it doesn't feel as refined as the turbo does on the Outback. I feel like that's a really, really refined motor. And you have to pay MSRP, which that's just more of a car supply thing, but that seems to be what everything's going at is MSRP. It's the new day and age. We were able to get 2.9% financing on this, which was nice, especially with financing being so expensive now since the feds have raised interest rates. So overall, I like it. I like it more than the Outback for our needs, just because it's more practical. I feel like it's more economical. There's not as much. If you get the regular one, like the Sport or Limited, you're gonna get even better gas mileage, but that was the big thing. I mean, I drive 1,000 miles a month because I'm basically the one that commutes our kids around because my wife works longer hours during the day than I do. And it fits another car seat. This is an infant car seat pretty easily. You have plenty of room back here. That's one thing I will mention is that there is plenty of room. Vents, no heated seat options. You got some USB chargers back here, but it's a really roomy vehicle, and these doors are so wide. That was one of the big things we liked about it, just how wide the doors are, easy to get kids in and out. It's a very safe vehicle, gets good crash ratings. Has all your blind spot monitoring, adaptive cruise, all that jazz. Almost every 2022 vehicle has that. So that's it. We're really happy with it. It's much cheaper if you're buying a new vehicle than Outback in the same specs. I probably would have got a Sport if it didn't have the orange stuff all over it. I hate orange. Even though the copper yellow can kind of look orangish at the time, I just think this looks better. I think it's one of the better looking, I don't know, off-roady vehicles besides the 4Runner. I still think the 4Runner, like the TRD Pro, is probably the winner there, but those, you talk about expensive and horrible gas mileage. So that's it. Happy with it. The only one negative about driving it is the auto start stop is god awful, but you do have a button, a physical button to turn that off. I just wish you could leave it off. They should be able to let you disable that bad boy because it is not refined at all. This thing, it either works really well or it just, whenever it starts back up, it feels like somebody kicks you in the back. So that's it. Happy with it. A few negatives. Those are really it. I'm pretty happy with these Michelin Cross Climate 2s. I may get a review of these up later. But these are really, really nice tires if you're looking for some all-season. These are premium tires. They're not cheap. I forget, they were like $8.50 for a pair. They do have discounts. They're like $150 off if you bought a pair of 4 and had them mounted and balanced at basically any tire place out there. I just think they should have an option for you to get all-terrain tires from the factory just because, not all-terrain, all-season, because I don't think all-terrain tires are really, even though the Geolanders, the Yokohama Geolanders are very light off-terrain tires and really actually rate pretty well when it comes to just overall general daily driving. So that's it. If anyone has any comments, questions, leave them below and I'll get back to you. I'm sure I missed a lot about this. Like I noticed now it has a front little camera here. And this actually works at all speeds. So it gives you just basically a front view of the vehicle. If you're off-roading, or I could see you using it in like deep snow or something just to see what's up ahead. But overall, really happy with it. Questions below. I will get a more long-term of this view up as I can. And that's it. Have a good rest of the day, weekend, whatever is out there, and I'll see you guys next time.